A bladder infection usually makes people think about burning when peeing, urgency, and lower belly discomfort. So when a headache shows up too, it can feel confusing and easy to dismiss. But sometimes that extra symptom is the part your body is using to say, pay closer attention. That is what makes a bladder infection headache so tricky. Headache is not one of the classic lower bladder infection symptoms listed by major medical sources, which means when it appears, there may be more going on around the infection, like dehydration, fever, poor sleep, or a more systemic reaction. That is an inference based on what the standard symptom lists do and do not include. The mistake many people make is treating the urinary symptoms and the headache as two completely separate problems. They push through the day, drink less because peeing hurts, sleep badly, and hope it all settles down. Sometimes it does. Sometimes the pattern starts pointing somewhere more serious. In this video, we are going to break down when a bladder infection and headache may be connected. What may be driving that connection? What warning signs deserve faster attention, and what smart next steps look like? Stay with me, because the timeline matters more than most people realize. Let us start with the basics. A bladder infection is a type of urinary tract infection, often caused by bacteria entering the urinary tract and multiplying in the bladder. Common symptoms include burning while urinating, frequent urination, needing to pee even when the bladder feels empty, and lower abdominal pressure or discomfort. What you do not usually see on the standard symptom list is headache. That is important because it tells us a headache is often not the first or most typical sign of a simple bladder infection by itself. When it happens, the bigger context becomes much more important than the headache alone. Sometimes that bigger context is simple: poor sleep from getting up to pee, not drinking enough water, low energy from being sick, or feeling stressed and run down. Sometimes it is more concerning, especially if fever, nausea, vomiting, back or side pain, or chills begin showing up too, because those symptoms can point toward kidney involvement. So the goal here is not to say every headache means danger. The goal is to stop looking at symptoms in isolation. Once you start reading the whole pattern, bladder symptoms, energy, hydration, fever, pain location, and timing, the story usually becomes much easier to understand. The main problem is that people often try to manage around a bladder infection instead of slowing down and paying attention. They go to work, sit through meetings, avoid drinking water because urinating hurts, and get more exhausted as the day goes on. That makes the headache feel random when it may not be random at all. Dehydration can quietly make this worse. If you are drinking less, losing sleep, or feeling unwell, your body may start showing signs outside the urinary tract. And thirst is not always a reliable early signal, which is one reason people can get behind on fluids before they fully realize it. Another problem is that people watch only the urinary symptoms and miss the shift in pattern. A simple bladder infection may cause burning and urgency, but if fever, chills, nausea, vomiting, flank or back pain, or confusion start joining the picture, that is no longer something to casually monitor at home. And that is where guessing becomes risky. A headache from poor sleep or low fluids may feel mild at first. A headache showing up alongside signs of a kidney infection or more serious illness may also begin subtly. The difference is not always obvious in the first hour, which is why pattern and red flags matter so much. So what might actually link a bladder infection and headache? One pathway is dehydration. People with urinary symptoms may drink less because peeing is uncomfortable. An illness itself can disrupt normal hydration. Mild to moderate dehydration can develop before strong thirst is obvious, and severe dehydration needs prompt medical care. Another pathway is poor sleep and general body stress. If you are waking repeatedly to use the bathroom, feeling discomfort, or running a fever, your body loses recovery time. The next day, the head may feel heavier, foggier, or more sensitive, even if the infection itself is still centered in the bladder. That is a reasonable clinical inference from the symptom patterns and dehydration guidance. There is also the possibility that the infection is no longer staying low in the urinary tract. Official sources warn that bladder infections can spread to the kidneys, and kidney infection symptoms include fever, chills, nausea or vomiting, and pain in the backside or groin. That is when the whole picture becomes more serious. Think of the urinary system like a city drainage network. If the problem stays small and local, the warning stays local. But if pressure builds and the trouble spreads upward, more systems start reacting. A headache can sometimes be one of those broader warning signs that the body is under more strain than it looks. That last point is an inference grounded in the symptom clusters above. Here is the breakthrough. The most useful question is often not just, "Do I have a headache?" It is, "What happened around it?" Did it start after a day of drinking less water, after a fever, after a bad night of getting up to pee, or after the pain moved from the lower abdomen toward the back or side? That timeline can change everything. If the headache shows up with classic bladder symptoms and you are clearly run down or dehydrated, that suggests one kind of story. If it shows up with chills, vomiting, flank pain, or confusion, that suggests a very different story, one that deserves faster medical attention. On say you start noticing the sequence, the whole situation becomes less mysterious. You stop treating the urinary symptoms, the headache, and the fatigue like separate events. Instead, you see them as one system giving you a progression, local irritation, body stress, and possibly warning signs that the infection is not staying simple. That is powerful, because good symptom awareness reduces both panic and denial. You are no longer forced to guess. You can ask better questions, describe the pattern more clearly, and get help sooner if the story starts shifting in the wrong direction. So what should you do? First, do not ignore the infection symptoms themselves. Contact a healthcare professional if you think you have a bladder infection. Bladder infections are commonly treated with antibiotics, and official sources also note that drinking more fluids can help ease symptoms and recovery. Second, watch for signs that the situation may be moving beyond a simple bladder infection. Faster medical attention is especially important if you develop fever, chills, nausea, vomiting, back or side pain, blood in the urine, trouble keeping fluids down, or confusion. Those are classic red flags for kidney infection or more serious illness. Third, support the basics while you are waiting for care or starting treatment. Drink fluids unless a clinician has told you otherwise, rest, and do not try to push through the day like nothing is happening. If the headache appears to be tied to low fluids, fever, or poor sleep, those basics may matter more than people expect. That last sentence is a cautious inference from the official guidance. Finally, take a simple note of the pattern: urinary symptoms, temperature, headache timing, back or side pain, nausea, and hydration. Clear notes help you and your clinician see whether you are dealing with a local bladder problem, a worsening infection, or a body under strain from several factors at once. The reassuring part is that many bladder infections improve once they are recognized and treated properly. But the headache matters because it can be a clue that your body is struggling with more than just local urinary discomfort, especially if dehydration, fever, or spreading infection are part of the picture. So do not make the mistake of saying it is just a UT while the pattern is clearly changing. Burning, urgency, lower belly pressure, and cloudy or bloody urine fit the classic picture. Add headache plus fever, chills, nausea, flank pain, or confusion, and the situation deserves a different level of attention. This video is for education only and does not replace medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Urinary infections can range from irritating to serious, and only a qualified healthcare professional can tell what is driving your symptoms and whether the infection may be spreading. If your symptoms feel severe, unusual, or simply not right, get checked. And even if the cause turns out to be manageable, getting clarity early can reduce stress, speed treatment, and help prevent the kind of wait and hope delay that makes a bad day worse. Now you know why a bladder infection headache should not automatically be ignored, why headache is not usually a classic lower bladder symptom, and why the timeline around fever, hydration, sleep, and back or side pain matters so much. Once you see the sequence, the symptoms stop feeling so random. After this video, do one simple thing: think back to the order of events. Did the urinary symptoms come first? Did you stop drinking enough water? Did fever or chills show up? Did the pain move toward your back or side? That honest review may tell you whether this looks more simple or more urgent. And remember, this content is educational and not a substitute for professional care. If your symptoms are severe, worsening, or linked with red flag signs like confusion, vomiting, or back or side pain with fever, seek medical attention promptly. If you want more simple health content like this, subscribe to the channel. And if this video helped you, leave a comment with your experience, question, or suggestion for the next topic. Your story may help someone else feel calmer, better informed,